Hi there, I'm Mike, and what I have for you today is my 2017 Star Wars The Black Series top 10 list that I've spent the last 2 weeks agonizing over. Guys, these are just toys, right? They're just toys. Why do they haunt me so? I've got a lot to talk about. Before jumping into the list proper, I do want to do a little retrospective on the year. It's been a good year. By my count, there were 59 figures released in 2017. Of the main line, we only had about 21 figures that came out, starting at 36 with Baze Malbus and ending at 56 with Jaina Solo. We also had 2 waves plus a couple exclusives for the 40th anniversary figure line that came out this year. We also had a ton of convention and store exclusives from Amazon to Walmart to Walgreens. It was tough tracking them all down. Of all of those figures, I actually only picked up about 44 of those. Now, I do consider myself a completionist. I made sure that I at least got the unique figures that came out, not repacks that I'd already had from previous releases, with the exception of the Stormtrooper, because you can't have too many Stormtroopers. Of those figures, I was disappointed by a few of them, mostly these. If you see a figure on here that you like, just know that I don't hate these figures. I don't think they're bad figures. They just disappointed me in some way. Kind of like how I disappointed my parents. So now that we have the duds out of the way, let's look at the studs. I'm so sorry. I don't know why I said that. Number 10. Chirrut Imwe, played by Donnie Yen. He came out at the very beginning of 2017, and he was impossible to find. I never saw these guys in stores once. I have heard of people finding them at JCPenney, of all places. Or is it Macy's? It was one of those weird department stores. If you could find him, I actually ordered mine from Entertainment Earth. He's a great likeness. He has a great mixture of soft goods and molded plastic that keeps up the articulation while giving you a lot of great detail. He comes with the accessories that he should, and I really liked him as a character in Rogue One. Do I think he should have been a Jedi? Heck yeah, I do. He should have been a Jedi. But he rounds out my cast really well. I really want them to finish the Rogue One figures, at least the core cast. He's a great figure, and he's in my number 10 spot. Number 9. Luke Skywalker in Tatooine gear, outfit, whatever, with his land speeder. Now, I originally had this much higher on my list, but I gave it all a really hard think. I paid full price for this bad boy on Force Friday because I was super stoked for it. However, it's been a few months since then, and they've been not really shelf warming, but they've been a presence on the shelf. I think 50 would have been a better price point for it. The accessories that come with this Luke Skywalker are the accessories that should have come with the original Luke Skywalker, the one that I dogged on back in last year. That was actually one of my biggest disappointments of that year, and it's kind of fun seeing it on the top 10 list this year because it fixes a lot of the issues I have with it. It came with a poncho, it came with a hat, it came with a long gun, and the land speeder itself is actually pretty good. It has a decent paint job, a lot of great details and opening compartments and whatnot. I do feel like it's a little small, maybe just a hair too small. Honestly, these top 10s are all super good, and I recommend any of them. But for the $60 price point I paid for him, it lands him at number 9. Number 8. The Imperial Royal Guard. Now, this bad boy was on my top 10 wish list. In fact, I think pretty much all of my top 10 wish list has been released. I should do another one of those. They actually released this guy twice this year. They had the original carded release, which I ended up having to buy online because, again, I never saw it in stores, and that's a reoccurring problem with Star Wars The Black Series in general. If you're not willing to order some of these online, you're just going to have a tough time finding them in stores. And when I say that, I mean for normal retail price. I do not pay scalper prices. The other one came out in the 4-pack, the Guardians of Evil, I think is what it was called, or Guards of Evil. And that 4-pack also had 3 other figures inside of it, and one was the Legends Shadow Guard, which I almost put in place of this on the list because it's basically just the Imperial Royal Guard, but black. And then his staff is a lightsaber, which is cool because they're kind of Force-sensitive versions of those guards. But it is a Legends figure, and I only had to pick one, and I wanted to go with the one that was actually on my list. So the Imperial Royal Guard is the one that made it. Number 7. Now, there were 3 Elite Praetorian Guards that were released this year, and they're all different. So if you're a completionist like me, you had to buy all of them. The first one came out as part of the normal carded release. I got mine on Force Friday. I found it at Toys R Us. Didn't expect to, and that's great. The second one came out as part of that aforementioned Guards of Evil 4-pack. And the third one was actually an Amazon exclusive. They have different weapons and slightly different heads, and the one that came with the Guards of Evil 4-pack actually had a soft goods skirt, which is a little annoying because it makes him a little bit visually too different than the other two figures that came out. I kind of wish they'd solidified that, but in this case I actually prefer the soft goods because of some issues I've gone into if you want to go back and watch those reviews of those figures. So I'm actually making that one, the one from the Guard 4-pack, my pick because I can only really pick one for the spot. I like his weapons a little better, and I like the fact that he has a soft goods skirt. So yeah, that's the one I'm going with, because unlike last year, I got some shade thrown at me for picking multiples in a spot. People didn't like that when they make a top 10 list and there's actually like 13 or 14 figures on it because it's hard to choose. It's hard to choose. This is tough. Number 6. Rey with her speeder. Why is she higher than Luke? Luke is much more iconic than Rey at this point. Now, I'm not saying she's better or worse, although I kind of am by putting her higher on the list. Luke and that land speeder have been around since 1977. It's just part of like the cultural zeitgeist, if you will. I don't know. Wow, that was a big word. I had a tough time putting her above Luke, but when I really sat down and looked at both of these, did they deserve to be on the top just because they were vehicles? They belong on here, objectively speaking. Rey edges out Luke just a bit in a couple different ways. First of all, the figure we got with that release is wholly unique, and it's the figure that I wish that we got back when episode 7 came out. She has her scavenger look, she has a backpack, she has a hood, she has a mask that goes over the hood. She also has a lot of soft goods on her, and on her, the soft goods look really good. So that kind of fits the motif there, and I really like that. But that's just the figure. The vehicle is just fantastic. There's so many great paint apps and details and all of this stuff. I really like it. I know it looks like a fudgesicle, and it makes me a little hungry. I really can't recommend Rey's speeder enough. It's super good. It does edge out a little bit over Luke Skywalker's speeder because I feel like it's A, appropriately sized, B, and I do like the figure a little bit better than the Tatooine Luke that we got. Number 5. Okay, so that was the top 5, or the bottom 5. That was the 10 through 6. That was those 5. 5 through 1, however we're going to map that one out. This was much harder. This is much harder. These are all fantastic figures, and I might as well have just closed my eyes and pointed at them. They're just so good. But they had to be somewhere, and we're starting at number 5 with Hera Syndulla. Do I wish she came with chopper or something other than just a tiny gun that fits on her ankle? Yes. That being said, I love everything about her. She looks just so good. I'm a sucker for aliens. I'm a sucker for flight jumpsuits. And she hits both of those really well. We finally have a Twi'lek. I say Twi'lek. I know some people say Twi'lek, but I just think that sounds really stupid. We have a Twi'lek on the Black Series, finally. I'm just really glad we got to add to the Rebels cast. I know I haven't done a review of the first couple figures that came out on Force Friday. I do plan on going back and reviewing them, so look forward to that sometime in the future. But spoiler alert, I guess, the review is going to be good because she's my number 5 figure of the whole line this year. Number 4. Grand Admiral Thrawn. Finally. Thrawn was a staple of the Star Wars Expanded Universe. You really couldn't talk about Star Wars The Expanded Universe without talking about Thrawn. He first appeared, written by Timothy Zahn, in the, was it like Heir to the Empire trilogy or something like that? And those were widely considered like the sequels to Star Wars, the sequel trilogy. And when Disney bought Star Wars and announced they're going to do new ones, everyone said, oh, they should do the Thrawn trilogy. No, I'm so glad they didn't. It's easier at this point just to throw it all out, start over, and then slowly reincorporate figures back into the canon. And that's exactly what they did with Grand Admiral Thrawn. They reintroduced him on season 3 of Rebels, and he was fantastic. He was the Thrawn we got in those books, but in Rebels, in canon. I really like this figure. He did come out as part of a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive in a gigantic box that came with a lot of great art replicas, because that's been Thrawn's thing. He's an art enthusiast, and he determines how best to sort of wage a campaign against a planet or a species based on their art. And this is really well executed in this figure. Just looking at him, he's poised, he's resplendent, He is really well rendered in 3D in my hands, and I like him a lot. Number 3. Speaking of Star Wars The Expanded Universe, there was a character vote, a fan vote, and the person that won that was Jaina Solo. Despite all my gripes and complaints every time I saw that she was winning or on the list even at all, she's a character that doesn't exist anymore. She was largely part of the Star Wars Expanded Universe that I didn't like. So when they announced that Jaina Solo won the fans' choice vote, I was pretty disappointed, to say the least. There were, so many other figures that aren't in the line that are in Star Wars movies that didn't even make it to the finals. I just kind of bugged me. But when I saw pictures of her, I was like, you know what? Nope, don't care anymore. This looks fantastic. She looks so good. Hasbro, why don't you do this level of detail and articulation and accessories with every figure? This is amazing. Look what you did with this figure. In a conversation I had with someone on the internet at some point, they mentioned that if she didn't win the fans' choice vote, Hasbro would never make her. And I really didn't care at the time, but after having this figure in hand, I'm glad that she did. I really am. She is a character that never existed in any movies, so her likeness is spot on because she really doesn't have a likeness. Like, you could tell me that's Jaina Solo and I'll just accept it. Yep, sure, it's Jaina Solo. She's wearing a flight suit, which is like a tick on my box right there. She's got a lightsaber, she's got a blaster, a holster for that blaster, and a highly detailed helmet. Great hair, great face, everything's great. There's not one thing that's not great on this figure. She even has a weird waist crunch that no other figure really has. She actually almost didn't even make this list because I didn't have her until yesterday. So I basically spent yesterday all day, all night playing with her, trying to decide if I wanted to put her on this list because she was genuinely good or just because she was new. But I pretty much knew that she was going to be on the list from the moment I saw her. But sometimes those pictures don't translate well into your hand. This one did. If you see her, snatch her right up. She's highly scalped. I got mine from GameStop. I pre-ordered it back in November and I paid for it in full. I found Rose, I found Snoke sitting on shelves a couple times, which usually means I just missed Jaina. If you're out there, if you bought those ahead of me, I hope you enjoy her as much as I did. If you bought her to resell her, you're a bad person. Number 2. Clone Captain Rex. Now I know I said at the beginning of the video that I don't buy convention exclusives, and I still don't. This was actually purchased for me by a fan who likes my videos. And it just so happens to be one of the best figures I picked up this year. Now, most of the time, convention exclusives get re-released as part of the normal series. This is actually the only one that was a convention exclusive this year that hasn't been re-released. I just gotta patiently wait for the 2018 release, which is when this is coming out. Now, there are gonna be some differences. I did find a picture of the carded release of this. It looks to me like he doesn't come with the guns, although the glare could be cutting them out. And he doesn't have the hash marks all over him, but he does have a lot of the weathering, which is great. This is clearly the better version of that figure. So I'm super glad that I have it. I'm super glad that I got to put it in my 2017 list. Honorable mentions. So, that was 10 through 2. There's one left. Before I move on to number 1, I'm playing that annoying card where I'm going to go over my honorable mentions. There were so many good figures this year that I really wanted to include in this list, but just couldn't for whatever reason. It was tough to choose just 10. So just really quickly down the list, 40th Anniversary Princess Leia. Now, again, this figure was actually one of my worst figures of the 2016. Why is she the better now? Because they redid her face. No, that's it. I just want to point that out. Admiral Ackbar. Oh man, this was part of a 2-pack that came with a First Order officer for some reason. If he was in his white outfit, I might have put this in the top 10. But that facial sculpt, that head sculpt is just so good. Maz Kanata. Now, I did not expect to be putting her in the honorable mentions even, but I just love the detail on her clothing, her paint, her goggles, her accessories. She was a surprise for me. Death Squad Commander. I really don't have a reason. I just like him. I like that his helmet comes off. I like that he's just a guy. He's a good troop builder, and I can't wait for him to come out in the normal line. And number 1 of honorable mentions, which I guess makes it number 11. Jeez, this is top 15. Qui-Gon Jinn, because he was part of my top 10 list, and I like him, and I wish he came with a robe. If he came with a robe, he might have made this list, but he didn't. So he's just Number 11, I guess.
Number 1.
Number 1, Darth Vader. He got released twice this year. Once as part of the 40th anniversary line with the early bird special thing that I bought and reviewed on my channel. Once as part of the regular carded Black Series, whatever, numbered release that came out on Force Friday. I did not pick that one up, although I almost did a couple times. Man, oh man, did they nail Darth Vader. He looks so good. This is from his Rogue One, A New Hope. It's kind of released, and you can tell because he has his robe over his shoulder armor. His lightsaber is super good. It's bigger, it's thicker. I like that. His articulation is fantastic. He just looks menacing standing there. He is easily my favorite figure of the year. He is everything every other Darth Vader figure should have been, but this one. I love it. You can have him just standing there with his arms to his side. You can put his lightsaber on his belt. His capes hang really well. His armor, his helmet, all detailed, all proportionate. Cloth where there should be cloth. Hard plastic where there should be hard plastic. Hasbro just super nailed this figure, and I'm super happy that they released it. I'm glad that I got it as part of the 40th anniversary line. I'm glad they released it as part of the regular packages for people that didn't want to spend $40 on it or didn't find that on clearance for as low as, I think I saw it for $15 at one point. That is my Star Wars The Black Series top 10 list of 2017. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. What did you think? What was your top 10? Let me know in the comments below. I'm sure that we'll have a lively discussion. I'm not expecting everyone to agree with my top 10 list. It is mine. These are just my favorites. I'm not saying they're necessarily better or worse than others. I just like these the best. It's sort of a gut feeling in most cases, you know? It took me a long time to figure out what I was going to have on this list. I even pulled off all the figures on the shelf and lined them up individually on the ground so I could just give them all a good once over. I think I really annoyed Lily doing all that. I really agonized over this list because I want it to be good. I want it to be genuine. This is my list. It's unspoiled. It's my own. And let me know what you thought, I guess. Like, share, subscribe. Stay tuned. I've got more figures and lists and videos on the way. Thank you for a great year in 2017. Got about something like 3,000 new subscribers, which is cool. If you're one of those, thanks. If you're a newer one watching this and you want to subscribe, thanks. If you're one that's been here from the beginning, thanks. Thank you for all of it. I'll see you later. Bye.